Welcome everyone to Real Conversations with Nora. Interracial relationships. They are more common today and proof that color has no love, love knows no color rather. During these times, racial unrest in our country, how are interracial relationships impacted? So, welcome to our topic today, which is having an interracial relationship in this day and time. And so, I want to welcome my very special guest couple, Martha and Bruce, who are married, and Shanoa and Victor, who are engaged to be married. So, we'll start with Shanoa and Victor. How long have you guys been dating?
You want to go, Shanoa?
We've been dating since July of 2018 and engaged since November 12th of 2019.
Wow, wow. And so, because you're in different places, you're in Illinois, and Victor is in Scotland.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did you guys meet?
We met basically through Shanoa's Facebook presence, her posts, and we just everything that she was saying chimed with me, and the conversations grew, and
Wow.
I guess that's how it really
So
that's how it came together.
an online kind of dating, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
without even knowing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And Bruce and Martha, how long have you guys been married?
It will be 7 years in October.
7 years in October. Wow. And how did you guys meet?
Hopefully, no 7-year itch.
Okay. How did you guys meet?
We met through a client.
Oh, okay. Wow. So through a mutual friend, client. Okay. Well, my first question is based on all that is going on in the world today. How comfortable are you as couples talking about issues that concern how Black people are treated based on the color of their skin? So we could either Bruce or Victor, whichever one you want to start first. Maybe you guys want to pick up on that.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Mhm.
We are very comfortable talking about those kind of things, both personally and on social media. Martha and I put together a Facebook conversation about that very subject about a month ago, which has been viewed quite a number of times. And we're comfortable talking about it with friends, family, strangers, whoever.
Actually, Martha and I, well, we don't really kind of know each other, but we are kind of like sisters on JJ Smith's Green Smoothies, and that's how. And then one day I was watching, and I popped up, and I saw I did see the Facebook live presentation, and I absolutely positively loved it. And that's what made me reach out to you. So that's great. What about you, Victor?
I don't even see it as being a matter of being comfortable or uncomfortable. I see it as being a matter of urgency. And for me, it's actually something that's weighed on my heart my entire life. And so for me, it's like kind of, well, if we don't stand up,
Absolutely.
especially when we're in these relationships,
Right.
then who is going to stand up? So
Right.
yeah.
What's your thought, Martha?
Oh, I agree with Bruce. We're very comfortable talking about it. In fact, the Facebook Live that we did was, I just had a burden on my heart that we need to speak out. I feel like we're in a unique circumstance. And so we need to use whatever platform that we have in order to,
Sorry.
That's okay. In order to, let this be a conversation, because I think the problem is that we see it, but no one wants to speak about it. So
address it.
I admire you for doing this.
Right. And you, Noah? That's okay, Victor. This is like a family. This is like a family gathering. I'm
Sure.
If somebody rings the doorbell, we got to get up and answer. Noah?
I have been pleasantly blessed and surprised at the level of depthness that Victor and I are able to talk about this. So to answer the question, I'm very, very comfortable, and we talk about it all the time.
Mhm.
And what I feel like what drives our conversations even deeper is the similarities that are between African American culture and Glaswegian culture.
Mm.
That's what we constantly laugh and talk about a lot. How similar, from family structure to phrases to how to get bread out of the loaf. I mean, and it has really opened up my mind about what this is really about. What I have found is that it is black and white here in this country,
Mhm.
but I would say overall it may not be as black and white, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. And absolutely, I mean, let's face it, in this day and times with the racial issues that are going on in our country, and the bottom line is that God created one race, and that is the human race. And
Right.
so I cut my skin open. I cut myself. Both you and Bruce, Victor are going to believe the same. And if we could just get past that, the Bible also says that love covers a multitude of sin. And so, Jesus talks a lot about love, and that's where we are. And so, and the Bible also teaches us train a child in the way that they should go, and when they grow up, they will not depart from it. So it's
Mm.
very sad and disheartening to me that we have people who are raising children and putting such toxic conversations about race into their heads and not understanding the importance of us getting along. And I think we could go on and on about that conversation, but it is very important. I know for me, I grew up in a city where the percentage of African Americans was probably about maybe 12%, which is in Massachusetts. So the racial tension in Massachusetts was very strong. I think an overall with the death of George Floyd and on the many other deaths that have happened, the world is now paying attention.
Mm.
Right.
And I love what Will Smith said, that it has always kind of been like this, but now we have a camera, and where
Amen.
people can be
Yes.
filmed and
Being
people
filmed.
right being
Yes.
filmed and seeing the real injustice that is
Mm.
happening. But I just feel that if I could look at Bruce as my brother and Victor as my brother and not like, oh, he's white and she's black, I think that's when we get all caught up. The
Mm.
Bible also says that the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
Destroy.
And so
Yes.
one way he can destroy us as a people is to divide us and with
Yep.
racial division. And so I think
Mm.
it's just very important that we stay the course and we begin to and we continue this platform of speaking out, basically. It also
Yep.
said that Jesus said that know you the truth, and it is the truth that's going to set you free. So we have
Amen.
to speak the truth. And I think that we have to communicate. And for so long with Black, Caucasian, Latinos, Asians, we have just been quiet and not spoken up when we see something in our own personal circle. It may not even be on a social media platform. It may be in our own personal circle, but we've got to be bold enough to speak up and have those really difficult conversations, because we're talking about something that has gone on for years and years
Mm.
and years and years. And so I think this new generation, these young kids, they're like totally different. They are not having it.
Yep.
And I
You're
think that's
right.
a good thing. I really do. I really do think that's a good thing. So listen, let me ask you guys this. Were you concerned when you entered into these relationships, Martha, when you entered into this relationship with Bruce and Shanoa with Victor? Were you concerned about what your family and friends might think?
I personally wasn't, and I think it is my background. My father was a pastor, and we moved around a lot. And one of the places that I lived when I was young was Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which we literally were the only Black family
Wow.
there. I was the only Black in my school. So,
Wow.
and my immediate family is very colorful. So I did not. I was not concerned. My mom was about 88 or 89 when we met. Um, not really concerned about that.
Mm-hmm.
My mom probably had a worse, you know, reaction to me getting married again than the color of his skin. So, so it never was an issue.
Okay, what about you, Bruce?
It's never been an issue for me. I think partly like Martha, it's mostly has to do with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been pretty strong and independent in what I think and believe. So I wasn't going to let anybody direct me in any other way other than the way I believed. And there were never any issues with my family. My mom was also quite a bit up in age when we met, and my my mom loved Martha right from the very beginning, and she was
Same.
just like she was one of her own.
Yeah.
And I come from a very large family, and there were no problems with anybody whatsoever. I think Martha was immediately thought of as one of us. So that's never been an issue for us. And I guess that's a good thing.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. What about you, Victor? Your family?
No, it wasn't an issue for my family. Biggest issue with my family's been I've always done exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I've never done what I've never ever really done what they expect me to do in life. Period. So, but no, the sort of skin color and all that was never a thing. No.
What about the fact that you met her online and then you bring home this chocolate, beautiful woman?
I think probably like me, they were just in awe of how beautiful she is, and I've got one of my sisters um, constantly comments on how stunning Shinoa is,
Uh-huh.
and so yeah, so I think it was a very positive thing. So
Good. What about you, Chanela? Well, you know, as
Well,
Black people, sometimes we have these uh, preconceived ideas, and you're bringing home who? Okay,
Guess who's coming to dinner?
all right.
yeah, the other
Guess
way,
who is
yeah.
coming to dinner? Absolutely, Chanela.
yeah, so along those lines, I was concerned because I have built a bit of a platform on Facebook where I was speaking out against race and racism. And a lot of times that's interpreted as hating white people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the automatic assumption, even though that wasn't necessarily where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I guess based on that, I have begun to think, I have to admit, I was in a different mentality
Mm-hmm.
before I met Victor, which started when Ferguson happened.
Mm-hmm.
I was fairly new as a single mom, and I was attending an evangelical white church at the time, and I just began to notice the deafening silence when it came to these shootings and killings. And so it sent me on a spiral
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, unfortunately, where I stopped going to church.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of started um, looking into other faiths, if I can say, not necessarily within Christianity, but I guess just different ways of thinking, like Black consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
kind of more of a Black Panther, Malcolm X
Right.
type of thinking. And so I remember just being so angry and just telling my children, we're not going to do anything. Um, I just blackened my home, if that makes sense.
Right.
Black movies and Black music and
Right.
Black this and Black that, because I was scared.
Right. You
I
had a
was,
son.
again, I do have a son, and he was like 8 or 9 at the time. And so I was hurt about a lot of things. So I remember praying and asking God. I said, I know that you may not deliver me from this anger right away. I said, but if you can begin to order my steps
Praise
out of this anger, step by step,
God.
then I will follow wherever
Mhm.
that takes me.
Mm.
And I meet Victor.
Wow.
God has a
And
good sense of humor, doesn't he?
Isn't he?
yes, he
Oh my
does.
goodness. You're like,
Yes, he
really?
does.
God, really? I sent you a
Uh-huh.
message. I didn't say
Hmm.
And it was really interesting how, I used to believe, I've always been a believer in soulmates,
mm-hmm.
um but I can literally say that something woke up within me
Wow.
about Victor. And then that's when I realized, and then when my brain caught up and I'm like, oh, he's white, I kind of freaked, I kind of freaked out. So that's a long way of answering your question. But yeah, I was concerned. And if just to make a long story short, not all of my family members are accepting of Victor. I would say with my mother, who is 77, I believe she accepts him. I just don't believe she's crazy about the idea of my children and I relocating to
Sure.
Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so interesting, and from a spiritual point of view, we have got to begin to speak up, and that is of course that is our angelical Caucasian angelical churches, and even as African Americans. And I said that a lot of times we are more comfortable in an environment because of the way things are structured. When we go into an environment, we're there and it's us, and we're comfortable. But oftentimes that's not the same case. With Caucasians when they have to come into an environment where it's totally African American, unless like Bruce or Victor, who are totally confident in who they are, and they're not concerned about what other people think. And so that's a very key point that we have to face. And let's face it, we do have racism that is still going on in the church that needs to be addressed and addressed in a big way. And the only way to address something is to do what we're doing today, is having a
Yes.
conversation with
Amen.
with that. And so, how I want to ask you this next question: how difficult or easy has it been to be an interracial couple? You could go to a restaurant and people looking at you four eyes, or you're going to do something, or just like you should know, this is so unique that you have entered into this relationship. And like you said, a lot of your family members are not necessarily, and I probably would have been one of those family members. I'm going to be
Yeah, because I'm from Memphis, Tennessee,
right, right.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And my nephew, just to share with you, my sister's youngest son, married a young lady. She's Caucasian, and I'm telling you, she changed the world. She changed my mindset. I mean, when she walked into the room, it was like she jumped on the bed with us, and had a conversation, and I mean, it was just amazing. And when we went to the wedding, which was in upstate New York. Her family was absolutely amazing. It was like two families that were one family. And it
wow.
was just so amazing. And to me, that says, when you think about it, you need to really think more like Christ thinks. Because the Bible teaches us that we are made in his likeness and his image. He didn't say the color of your skin. He said the likeness and his image. And so that was very enlightening for me, and for me to be there and to see, and I teased my nephew because he's like real chocolate, like you should know. And I said, so they just had their recent child. I said, okay, so we're gonna have a little color here. And I mean, just absolutely gorgeous family, beautiful family. Love him to pieces, and it was just amazing. And so it was really a transformation because that was the first interaction in our family as a family to have. Christy is her name, and we just absolutely, positively love her because why? We love her heart and her soul. It has nothing to do with what the Lord showed me. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. You are made in my likeness and my image. And we all laugh at that.
Man.
Yeah. And that we could have these conversations. And you're not offended, Shanoa, about anything that Victor says. And Martha, you're not offended by anything that Bruce says, and vice versa. That we just have these open conversations. And so I'm telling you, I've been totally excited. I've been preparing for this platform here for about a week. So I'm totally excited about it. So how do you deal with racial statements from your friends or maybe family when they say things like, and I guess I'll direct this to Victor and Bruce. So, you're different, Shanoa, you're different. You're not like the other Black people. We know that we've heard those conversations. Um, so, so let me switch over. Let's say Nora and Martha talk about that, and then the last one will be for Bruce and Victor. But how do you deal with those kinds of conversations, Martha? If someone made that statement to you, and let's face it, we have there are white people who don't think the same. They still think they're inside a box, and they're still thinking, "Oh, that's different. I love you. You're different. You're not like the rest of them." What does that mean? So what's your thought about that?
Well, I've kind of heard those conversations all my life just because, again, I went to a majority, all white school. And then when I transferred over, I was in gifted and talented classes. So that means there weren't many of us, there. And so constantly, oh, you're different, or, you speak so well, or, just off color
Conversation
remarks that they totally don't get, but could be offensive. But I have been around it so long, it doesn't bother me. So I guess if I heard something now, it's at the point where if I feel that I want to use my energy to address it, I will. But a lot of times it's not even worth addressing. If it's genuinely a person that wants to know and do better, and they just don't know, then I'll spend my time and breath to educate. But if I detect that it's just part of who they are, a lot of times I just walk away. It's just that simple.
Right. And I think it's the point that you made, that if they want to know, and I really believe that a lot of times they don't know. And sometimes they don't care to know, and sometimes they do care to know. And so I guess my response was, well, what do you mean different? How do you know what different is if you don't have anything to compare it to? So that's definitely a way to deal with it. If it's something that is highly racially motivated, with the tension of the racial motivation, then, like you said, it's not. To me, you got to choose the battles that you want to fight.
Exactly.
Yeah, choose the battles that you want to fight. Shanoa?
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm not really sure I've heard comments like that from white people. I've heard them from other Black people because I play the violin, and I remember in college, being told I didn't have a real major, and can you play rap music on the violin? And, so I honestly, I've always,
No, I can't play no rap music.
right. I mean, now with black violin, but
Okay,
anyway.
right.
But at the time in the 90s, there really wasn't anything non-traditional in terms of how the instrument was played. But in terms of being made to feel different, I guess in certain aspects, I have felt different in different ways, with Black people and with white people, if that makes sense. But in terms of actual comments along those lines, my memory is not serving me well in terms of remembering if I have or not. So
And that probably has a lot to do with it. You sound a lot like me, having our circle of influence, not mainly having a great number of Caucasian people in our circle of influence, where Martha said she grew up in that environment. Even though I grew up in an environment where there was predominantly Caucasians, we were still in our own circle. We hadn't moved outside the borders of those circles. And
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I would say that I grew up very much so in an all Black environment, church and family and my friends and whatnot. But then, like I said, I started violin lessons at age 3. So that put me in the largely Caucasian circle. But that was only as it relates to, related to music lessons and things of that nature. So there wasn't a whole lot of interaction in terms of friendships and relationships and things. That didn't really happen for me until I was married at age 32. And that's when my children started actually playing with white children. I'm interacting with white mothers, and, but I still don't recall being told that. I guess I don't know.
They were like, you were a serious sister, and they weren't gonna mess with you, right?
Exactly. I guess so. Because yeah.
Okay, great. So, I'm going to direct this to Victor and Bruce. How does it feel to be married to a Black woman or a Black
Awesome.
person? What you say?
Awesome, but it's not. If I can qualify that statement, it's not awesome merely because of the beautiful color of Shanoa's skin. It's awesome because of her heart and because of who she is. But the fact that she has beautiful black skin is like icing on the cake for me. It's beautiful.
Wow, that is so awesome. I told you from Scotland, then. Okay, what's not about it, Bruce?
I would echo mostly what Victor said in terms of what does it feel like to be married to a Black woman. Well, I'm not sure. I know what it feels like to be married to Martha, who is Black, and that
Good
is
answer. Yeah.
that is a wonderful thing. It's been the easiest relationship I've ever had in my life. And,
Amen.
and
Me too.
I see color all the time. I see, for me to say I
Awesome.
don't see color would be untruthful.
Amen.
I see color, and I appreciate that her perspective on the world, which is different from mine. She's grew up differently than I did. I grew up in a very, very white environment. There were no minorities in the town I grew up in. There were one Black female in my high school. I didn't know a Black person until I went to college.
Wow.
But now, in terms of my family, I've never had any comments directed at me, and they would never say to me, "Well, Martha is different than other Blacks that we've known," because the truth is, they probably haven't known a whole lot of other ones. They grew up in a very white environment as well.
Wow.
I mean, they love Martha, who she is, but I don't think they can very well compare her to anything else. Yeah, she's just great all on her own. The fact that she's Black is, like Victor said, maybe icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Amen.
Oh,
Amen.
that's sweet.
So nice. Well, this is true, and there are many cases like yours, Bruce, where families grow up in an environment where they are not exposed to anyone else other than the people that look like them, and that's why it's so important as African Americans growing up in this type of environment that we keep people in our children's circle that look like us, but also introducing them to people who don't look like us. And so I just think that that's important, and that, like, I think, Martha, it was you that said, well, you talk differently, you're proper and stuff like that. I mean, what is proper? That's just English. I just know, I'm not putting any S's on the end of my words, but, so that is just very key and important. And I think, again, it goes back to me, for me, that, Lord, I want to be your servant, and I want to be able to serve people, and I don't want to be limited to be limited by any negative thinking about another race. And if I have an encounter, for me, I'm having an encounter with another person, and it's somebody who just was not taught, or just grew up in an environment where people were just basically ignorant, and because I really believe that if people knew better, they do better. Oftentimes that is so not the case. But anyway, wow, this is just, I could go on and on and on about this. This is just such a great conversation. But Martha and Bruce and Shanoa and Victor, I want to thank you for being our guests on Real Conversations with Nora today. And I want everyone, please, to follow me on social media at Business with BWOT, for Instagram rather, BWOTMFG. And for Facebook, Business Women on the Move for God. And visit my website, which is bwotmfg.com, and sign up for my weekly inspirational quotes. And I want you to join us this year at our conference. The speakers are going to be absolutely positively amazing. And the dates are September the 12th through the 13th. And it will be virtual this year because of the pandemic, but you can register at bwotmfg.com. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday on Real Conversations with Nora. Have a great and awesome and blessed week. Again, Martha and Bruce, thank you so much. And Shanoa
Thank you.
and Victor,
Thank you.
Pleasure.
thank you. God bless you. I love you guys. Have a blessed week.
You
Thank you.
too, Nora. Thank you.